Thank you, Karen, for doing this. It means a lot to me. Karen and I have done a couple of videos in the past before. And Karen, can you do a quick intro for my audience who might have not watched you before?
Sure. Thank you, Yudi, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to talk to you again. I really appreciate it. My name is Karen Lee Pollock. I'm the managing attorney of Pollock PLLC. We are located in Dallas, Texas, and we have clients across the United States and the world. We specialize in business, family, employment, and investor visas.
This video we are going to kind of make it two separate videos. One is going to be about this new rules proposal, and there's a lot of talk about it in F1 visa students from Department of Homeland Security of the 4 years fixed visa. What does that mean, Karen? And like, can you talk through like what do you think that rule proposal means? And then we'll talk about if this happens and how will it impact.
Okay, sure. So on September the 24th, I think it was last week, Department of Homeland Security announced proposed changes to the F visa, the I visa, and the J visa. The F visa is for students, the I visa is for international media correspondents, and the J visa is for exchange students. Specifically, they're focusing on changing the duration that you can stay in the United States on one of those visas. Right now, when you get those visas, your passport is generally stamped duration of status. There is no fixed time when you have to leave. You can stay as long as you are complying with your program. So if you are an F1 student and you've just started studying with a duration of stay, you can stay until you finish your bachelor's degree. Typically, let's say a bachelor's degree is 4 years, but you may have delayed things or so on, and now you're taking 6 years. Right now, as the law stands, you don't need to do anything about that. You can stay here lawfully as long as you're complying with your program and going to classes, even if it does take you 6 years to do your bachelor's degree.
So can I ask you a quick question? Because that's interesting. So my visa, when I came in 2014, when I got my F1 visa approved, it was stamped for 5 years. So on the visa, on my passport, it was from 2014 to 2019. So does that, but even though it was stamped for 5 years, does that mean if I would have took more than 5 years, I could have extended that? Is that what it means? Like before this rule?
No, that's slightly different. When you're given the visa at the consulate and it said a certain time for you to come in, that means if you travel outside the United States, you can come in and out to the United States as long as that visa is valid. So if the visa says December 2014 through December 2019, all that means is that you can come in and out of the United States until 2019 without getting a new visa.
Okay.
However, if you weren't going to school during that time, it would be immigration fraud if you tried to come in.
Right.
And customs officer always has the discretion to give you less time when you come in. And normally they would see that you're a student and they would only stamp your passport duration of stay. So even though your visa says till December 2019, they probably stamped your passport duration of stay.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, all right. So now, sorry, I stopped you. So that was what was happening in the past. So what this rule will do now?
So they've talked about, remember, it's a proposed rule, and we can go into what's involved in a proposed rule, but they're proposing to change duration of status. So when you come in and the customs officer sees, for example, if you're a student, your form I-20, they will say, okay, you are admitted to the United States for duration of stay as long as you're studying. Now the government is proposing to give you an exact end date when you can stay, not just say duration of stay. And they are saying that they are going to give you, if you're a student, a maximum of 4 years. And then you will have to apply to United States Citizenship and Immigration Services for an extension of stay. So that the procedure will be like applying for any other non-immigrant visa. You will be given a set date to which that visa is valid, and then you will have to extend it or potentially file an amendment if, let's say, and this is unclear to me, what if you change courses? Is that a material change or is it not? If it's a material change, then maybe you need to file an amended application now. Because if you change courses, that may give you more time, and so you'll need to file an extension of stay anyway, and it must be a material change. So now what the government's proposing is you will be given a maximum of 4 years, but it's up to their discretion. It could be as little as 2 years. And they are saying for countries which historically have a history of overstaying, those countries will be given only 2 years, and it needs to be renewed every 2 years as long as you're studying. If they believe you were born or are a citizen of a country that poses a terrorist threat or security risk, you will be given 2 years as well. Now, what they propose to do is if you're already in the United States with an F1 student visa and you have a duration of stay in your passport, you will automatically be given 4 years to stay here. To me, reading the rules, it's unclear if you are going to be given an additional 4 years off the bat from the time this rule is passed. So you will be given till 2024, or does it mean if you've stayed 4 years already, you now need to apply for an extension?
Oh, yeah, right.
So we're hoping that the plain reading of the wording, and we'll have to get clarification, is regardless of where you are in your studies right now, if you have duration of stay, you will be given 4 years from the date that this law goes into effect.
Got it.
Okay. We're hoping.
Right. So, and just to make it a little bit more simplified for my audience, because I have two different set of audience, one who's coming for bachelor's program and one who's coming for master's program. So typically master's program would be done in 2 years. Would it be that they will get only 2 years, or would they also get 4 years, or we don't know that?
We don't know that, and the law is unclear. They haven't really made that distinction in the proposed rule, but I'm expecting that the people who are going to be hardest hit are masters and doctorate holders, or people who are studying for masters or doctorates, because I believe they will only be given 2 years.
Okay. So what happens, so regardless in both situations, so let's say bachelor's got 4 years or master's got 2 years, if this rule gets approved, then, and if someone got only 2 years, they want to do a CPT after their first year, they completed first year and they got a CPT for 9 months. So they want to do that. Now they've already used 1 year plus 9 months in that, and they still have 1 more year to complete their 2 more semesters to complete their masters. Will they have to apply for an extension? That
I believe so. It's from the time that they got their F1 visa, it's now 2 years, whether they've done CPT, which is working while you're studying. I think they'll only be given date-wise 2 years with no distinction, whether you're studying or doing CPT. And they would be given a maximum of 2 years.
Okay. And what does the extension process look like? Is it just like applying for OPT similarly like that, or do they have to go back to the country to get the stamping, or do you know?
Yes, I think it's going to be, the procedure is going to be the same as applying for an extension, let's say for an H-1B visa or for any non-immigrant visa, that you're going to have to file an extension application with the government, with USCIS. That's got to be approved. and you're going to have to have biometrics, meaning fingerprints and photographs. You'll have to get approval, and only then will you be able to continue your study.
Wow.
So given the history of backlogs that we have right now, you're going to have to file your application at least 6 months in advance if you hope that there's not going to be any gaps. Also, if you do leave the country, you'll have to go to a consulate to get a visa in your passport to be able to return to the United States, just like with an H-1B extension.
Right. But not necessarily I'm assuming that if they are in United States, they apply for an extension, just like H-1B, you don't have to necessarily go out and come back. You can just...
If you have no reason to travel outside the United States, it's fine to get an H-1B extension and never go to the consulate for a visa.
Right.
You only need the visa if you're traveling. If you're not traveling, you can do the extension and stay in the United States.
Right. But if they happen to visit family after their 2 years of expiry and they have an extension, then they still need to get that approval done. Do they still have to do the visa interview or just... Oh, they do have to do it. Okay.
We believe so, the way it's read right now. Just like any extension, you would have to have a visa interview.
For H-1B extension also, we have to do interview? I don't think so.
Yes.
We do?
You do.
Okay.
You do.
Okay. I just got my H-1B extension, but I don't plan to travel, so I don't know. I didn't know that we have to do
only if you plan on traveling. If you don't plan on traveling, you don't have to do that. You can stay here.
Wow.
And then you have the normal risks of the consulate having delays, especially now with COVID. You have inconsistencies between consulates and officers on decisions. If they don't think, one of the things they talk about in this proposed rule is if the Department of Homeland Security doesn't feel you are progressing enough in your studies, they could potentially deny the visa to you.
Yeah, that's really scary.
Right, especially if you've taken some time longer than usual. You have learning differences, you've had a family emergency, you've had health issues, and maybe you've dropped some of the courses, not enough to be out of status, and they've been approved by your school. The government doesn't know all of that. And if they say, well, why is it taking you 6 years to get a BA? They can say, we don't think you're really studying hard enough and we're not giving you a visa, or we're not giving you an extension.
Wow. Yeah. So this rule can pretty much impact a lot of students. And what about OPT? So it's kind of tricky. You kind of have to do a lot of planning for this, because you are doing 2 years of masters. Let's take an example. You have a 2 years of visa and you have a 2 years of master. So you really have to be very sure that you're not going to extend your 2 years of masters and apply 90 days before for OPT.
Well, we don't know yet what this will entail. Does this 2-year extension include OPT, and they just put it all together? Or it's going to be a separate application for OPT, which is not considered part of your 2 years.
So is this rule include that that OPT is no more going to be there if they combine together?
I don't think so. I think it's 2 years of actual physical studying.
Okay.
And then you would apply for OPT. We don't know. It's not really that clear, but based on our understanding, I believe OPT is going to be treated separately to your maximum of 2 years study.
Right. And there's nowhere written about the STEM extension getting removed or anything, right? Like
we don't know anything further. Nothing further at this time.
Right. The only thing I have confusion, I have that rule up here. The only thing I see that is, I think it is with I classification not to exceed 240 days with an opportunity to extend the stay maximum of 240 days based on the length of relevant activities. What is that like? What does that
Okay,
mean?
so for international correspondents, a media agent, they typically are going to get 240 days here in the United States, and
Okay.
then they've got to apply if they want to stay an additional time, and will be given a maximum of 240 additional days.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay.
So they also talk about in this proposed rule that the grace period in the student visa of 60 days to depart will be reduced to 30 days.
That's right. They did. I was gonna talk about that next. Yeah. So what I mean, before, if they were ending their visa, they had 60 days to leave and or figure out their situation. Now they only have 30 days.
Correct. Correct.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
I just want to just keep emphasizing this is a proposed rule. It's not law
And
yet.
right, and that's going to be my next question. Like, what does that happen now? This rule got proposed. How does it go through the approval process, and like what does process look like?
Okay, so now there's a comment period of 30 days when people can make their comments about the rule and can complain about it, can say what they think it should be better or worse, or what improvements, or what the confusion is.
And when you say people, who are those people? Anybody?
Anybody can apply. Anybody can make a comment.
Okay.
You'll have a lot of advocacy groups that are doing it. The American Immigration Lawyers Association, I'm sure, is going to. Individual attorneys. A lot of the universities are going to weigh in. I'm sure that the media is going to weigh in for international correspondence, exchange students, that kind of thing. So any concerned person can write in.
Okay.
Then the government needs to consider all of those comments that are made. And then based on those comments, they need to respond to them and draft up a final rule taking into account those comments. And then it is sent to the Office of Management and Budget Review to approve. It's quite a lengthy process. It's not going to happen overnight. I personally don't believe it can happen before the election in November, and possibly not even before a new president is elected.
Okay, got it. And
I think highly unlikely in November, and more likely in January. And if we have a completely new administration politically, it just may never come to effect at all.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, because this is under Trump administration, and what if like Joe Biden gets elected? He can totally reject this rule and never have this executed.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's likely if Trump is reelected, it will go through, but even then, highly unlikely it will go through in November, and then it would, I think it could be safe to say it would go through in January at the latest, if he's reelected.
Right. Okay. And final question on this topic is a lot of my audience who are planning to come in spring 2021 or deciding if they should come in fall 2020. What's your advice or recommendation that they should wait to see what this rule entails after the proposal and approval process, and decide to come in fall, versus they should not worry and they should just come in spring 2021? I mean, I'm recommending to wait until see how these things goes, and at least wait for election to get done, because we don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, there's two ways of answering that. But before I actually answer it, I just want to say, even if it is passed and it goes through in November or January or even tomorrow, I think that there are going to be organizations that are going to litigate. So I think we've got a long way ahead, and there could potentially be injunction which can stop the law going into effect. I know that Stanford particularly has already voiced a huge concern about this. And I was just looking at something today, and there's a publication online called Insider Higher Education Report. And they have said just generally there's a 15% drop in overall enrollment for 2021. And there's a 25% drop in international enrollment,
Right.
which is a loss of $23 billion in revenue to the economy. So I think that a lot of universities are going to litigate this, and a lot of concerned people. So whether you should come in September or August, I still think that if you're planning on studying in America, what is the difference when you come? Just come in the next semester if you're able to, because you're still going to come in regardless of what the law is. If the law is going to change your decision whether to study in America, then wait. But if you're going to study in America regardless, then come in.
Yeah.
But just plan, hope for the best and plan for the worst.
Right.
What concerns me as an immigration attorney is how is the government, where we have the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service that doesn't have enough money, and they keep threatening to shut down and lay off workers. How are they going to timely process these visas? Now we've got a whole new area of visas that they've got to process. That includes extensions, applications, amendments, changes to stay. We are already significantly delayed. Who's going to do all this work? And it's got to be timely done, because if you don't have your visa approval, you can't start going to college. And if you can't start going to college, you may have to defer a semester or whatever it is. Then you've got to get a new I-20. So there's a lot of things. The government also says, the DHS says the purpose of this rule is to have greater control over overstays, and it's in the interest of national security. And I get that, I understand that, but it doesn't make sense to me, or I don't understand it, because we have the SEVIS system, which, especially I'm talking about F visas particularly. If the SEVIS system, Student and Exchange Information Service, whatever it is, stands for, it tracks all this information. Student and Exchange Visitor Information System, that's what it stands for. It tracks all this information anyway. So it can tell who's overstaying or who's violating whatever. The university has to report anyone who's not complying with the program into SEVIS. So I'm not sure how all these changes are going to make anything more secure.
Right.
I think they're just going to create a lot of work.
Right. And I think this could be also a lot of electional, political stance right now, because there's election coming up in 1 month and you got to do something to get votes. So I don't know. I think that's like what my thought process is.
Right. It could be a ploy to, just to try and win votes from anti-immigrant supporters. It's possible. I just don't see logically, regardless of politics, though, how it's going to improve national security. Because it's still, I mean, if you're going to overstay, you can overstay now. You're going to overstay if you don't file your extension that you're supposed to file anyway. So I don't see how it changes anything at all. And SEVIS reports all this stuff anyway.
This is definitely concerning, and I just hope that people all of them raises their voices, and this doesn't go through, or they make significant changes to this rule, or this rule never gets approved. That's what I would hope for. Doesn't make sense to me at all. And just to clarify, you said that, and this rule doesn't clarify that, but if this rule does fall in effect, let's say in November or December or January, whenever it does, students who came in fall 2020, just a couple months ago, their visa will automatically be translated into this fixed year of stay rule. We don't know if it'll be it'll be starting from 2020 to 4 years or 2 years, or it'll be whenever this gets applied plus 2 years. Is that
Right.
correct?
Well, we're saying we don't know. We believe on the plain reading of it, if you have already arrived, you will be given 4 years from the date that this rule goes into effect. But it is possible you'll be given 4 years from the date that you started.
And does that depend on the program you're coming for, like bachelor's
Right.
versus master's?
Yes. I think that they can, because in the best case scenario, if you're doing a master's will never be 4 years.
Correct.
So that would be counterintuitive if everyone automatically gets 4
It's
years.
4 years. Right.
So I think it definitely will depend on what course you're studying. Also, it said that, for example, just language courses, if you're coming in to study for language courses, you will only be given 2 years right off the bat. So I think they will look at what you're studying.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I think we covered pretty much everything. Do you have anything else to say for this part?
I don't believe so. I'm just looking at my notes to see if there's anything else. No, but I think if you are in the United States and you are a student, for example, go and talk to your DSO. Tell them what you find wrong. I mean, international students are under significant stress right now and uncertainty. So go to your DSO and talk to your international student office and make them comment on what's going on. And go to the regulatory bodies involved in your studies. And because the more universities that can do that, the greater the impact it will have.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you so much for doing this. It means a lot. And until our next one,
keep smiling and keep hustling.
Awesome.